One of these days, I'm just gonna like in the like 2 week span between recordings, or 2 to 4 weeks, or however long it ends up being. I'm just gonna like hit the books, study German really hard, and then like come on the podcast and be like just as clueless.
That would be fun though, to do a podcast episode, or like instead of doing like the majority of it in English, do the majority in German.
Oh
Just
boy, I don't know. Don't know about that.
Here's the thing, like if ever like I'm not available for the podcast and like I don't know, Awei's not here, what's stopping you guys?
True.
Like just record a podcast. Oh, this one's in German, and then there's Na'vi at the end, and I'll be like, okay, I can understand that.
I mean, like, worst case scenario, we get like an Aru to come in and subtitle it in English. Like,
Yeah, there you go.
Don't give me any ideas.
give you all the ideas.
Welcome into Eana Mokri podcast in German.
Herzlich willkommen zum Eana Mokri Podcast. Heute mit.
Koos
For
man,
example.
you're already hosting.
Yeah.
Keep this up. You're hosting the podcast today.
No,
Eana.
I'm not. Please don't do this to me. I'm sorry, okay?
Eywa'eveng atikamen. Welcome to the Eana Mokri podcast. Today we got coverage of the final issue of The Next Shadow, the Avatar comic miniseries that just concluded, as well as some language updates from Paul Fromer. And as always, we're going to end with some Na'vi conversation practice. So, pretty par for the course for an Eana Mokri episode. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is kind of what we do. Here with me to break these news events in the world of Avatar down are my wonderful co-hosts. We have Eana,
Kalt
Blooms,
Got it.
Awei,
Galt
and I'm Pamarik. Gatengaru. Alright, so let's just get started straight away with the final installment of Avatar the Next Shadow. Spoilers for Awei.
My pre-order did not go through very well.
Yeah, there's been all kinds of shipping issues for all of the cast members, except for myself, because I pick it up at the local comic book store. But yeah, no. If you're wondering why it takes us so long to cover these issues that came out like months ago, it's mostly just shipping issues. You have to, at least half the cast on any given episode is based in Europe, and combined with the situation, as I gesture broadly, there could be some delays. But anyway, so the final issue is kind of, it's 50-50 split between like Fever Dream Jake and the fallout of the events of the entire like miniseries. And then it, of course, in typical miniseries fashion, ends exactly where it began.
Well.
I think that's a clever bit of writing. I can't hate on it.
Yeah, same. I mean, compared to the third issue, which I had a bone to pick with, this one I'm very pleased with. I really like this one a lot, especially the dream portion of Jake, or hallucinations, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was very well done, very well told in my opinion. Very, very well drawn. So, yeah, I'm happy.
So, this is something I alluded to in the previous podcast, where I had just finished reading this issue, and we were discussing the previous one instead. But it's like, man, there's a whole lot of plot threads that they very quickly have to suddenly wrap up, like, in the span of one issue. But I think they actually did manage to execute on that pretty well. I don't think anything in the world of Avatar is ever going to be completely resolved. I mean, this is an ongoing narrative, and they have to make 4 films after this. Bare minimum. So this was never going to answer everything or tell the whole story. But as it concludes, it's sort of evident to me that most of the conflict of this comic was sort of revolving around like setting the stage for what kinds of things are the Na'vi concerned about, what kinds of things are the humans concerned about, and what are Jake's internal struggles. And if you look at this comic series as just those things, I think they succeeded on all fronts. Did that make any sense at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's nothing I can disagree with, so I stay silent because,
it's the same. And as far as I remember, when I listened to the last episode, that Willem was exactly talking about that he couldn't imagine how all those threads could be resolved in one issue, and that was the same issue or the same fear that I had. And for the main part, I think it works. But for example, with the human Na'vi conflict again, so with Hale, I think she had the least panels dedicated to her in the whole issue. So that was something that I found very disappointing is maybe a too strong a word, but it was, I don't know, underwhelming, I thought, to just show in a few panels that she got this, what it says, a plant that could save Jake, and she's never mentioned again, and I found that a little disappointing.
We kind of didn't see how most people's stories wrapped up, and that's sort of the point that I was alluding to, is I don't think this was meant to wrap up a whole lot of conflicts. I think as a window into the world of Avatar post the film, I think this actually sufficed. I think it's really easy for our expectations or like imaginations to kind of like run wild with what we want to see or like what we kind of expect to see from things. And this is kind of part of the reason that I stay out of a lot of sequel speculation discussions, is because I don't want to create in my head this idea of what I think the films or any upcoming Avatar or anything are supposed to be or what I want them to be. Because then best case scenario, it's like, oh, exactly my wishes came true. Wow, isn't this great to be me? And then, but like, there's no surprises. It's just like, oh, I called that, or like, I knew that was going to happen. But then like general case scenario, I'm disappointed. And like, I don't want to be disappointed in this thing that I'm excited about.
So, let's look at it from another perspective. When you heard the title of this next installment of the comics, so the next shadow, what did you expect anything, or was it just, oh, I will read what they have in store for me and let myself be surprised?
I read only the description of the first issue when it was like announced. It's like, along with the announcement, they sort of described like, oh, like the tensions between the humans and Na'vi are rising. Like it was something to the effect of that. They didn't really go into any great detail. And from then on out, I kind of just only paid attention to when the release dates were.
Okay.
And so when I saw that, like, oh, tensions between humans and Na'vi, I'm like, yeah, that tracks. like yeah, the central conflict of Avatar continues. Giant surprise there, like, yeah. So I went in with
you mean you were surprised that there wasn't a new alien species like the Blafengarf or something?
I mean, when the Blafengarf like came down in their ships at like the last panel, okay, yeah, that was a bit of a cliffhanger. Yeah. But like, I guess we'll figure out what those are eventually.
Okay. Now, okay, I'm looking at this from a story arc perspective. So because you said most of the stories are not very closed for most of the protagonists. So I'm thinking now of from this perspective, only Jake's story, because it's how it begins with issue 1, with him staring at his decomposing body.
Yeah.
So only his story arc is really closed, and the other ones, like the tsu'tey's family, is a little bit more opened up and a little bit open-ended with them. Spoiler.
So I don't think.
What is that?
Yeah. Okay. So I sort of get what you're getting at here. I think this particular internal conflict within Jake has evolved. It has not resolved. The relationship between tsu'tey's family has evolved, but not completely resolved. And we've learned more about the human conflicts, but those conflicts didn't really evolve that much. And we've learned about how the leNa'vi feel, and that through Jake's leadership, we'll call it, has somewhat evolved, but we've never been given an actual like solution to those things. So when I say a story resolves, it's like, oh, here's a problem. How did we solve it? Well, okay, there was this problem where Jake was poisoned, and they resolved it, and like, okay, that problem's resolved. And then Jake has a lot of like internal doubts about his ability to lead, and that's not been resolved, but he's on the road to resolving it and discovering himself and accepting his new, position.
Yeah, and through his conversation with tsu'tey and Eitukan, however one might interpret that, whether it's actually his connection with the Ewa-net or whether it's hallucination.
It was actually set up in the issue 3 that is a connection with Ewa.
Yeah. So, in this respect, then he is at least a step further in accepting his dual living he's still living in two worlds, and he cannot really step into one or stay there permanently. He is forever the connecting factor between the two worlds.
Yeah, without a doubt. So yeah, the series served as a window into what happened immediately after Avatar. And there was a story and sort of central narrative surrounding Jake and his relations with bridging the gap between the humans and the leNa'vi. But I was never expecting, massive revelations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from a story arc perspective, I can understand why they do that, because if this is supposed to be canon, they cannot really state, important character development or relationship between human and Na'vi, and then expect everyone who goes into the cinema, 1.5 years from now?
Yeah.
And know about all this.
Absolutely.
So those important plot elements need to be told in the movie for all audience to see. And this is all, just an extra candy along the way. Mm-hmm. They could decide with tsu'tey's path. They decided to go along the first movie and a little bit sideways with other characters and character development. So either they decide to tell stories that, maybe not the main protagonist, not Jake, not Naviteri, maybe Norm, or Moat's childhood or something like that. Or they go the way like Cirque du Soleil's Toruk went, so that they pick certain legends or certain stories from Pandora where you don't have the main characters from the movie, but it is still the DNA of Pandora.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
I think I would be more satisfied with that than those stories that have your main characters in it, but there's not really character development.
Mm-hmm. I get that perfectly, but I think like such stories you just mentioned, like the childhood of Moat or something like that, which would be very interesting. It's just like candy when all major plot threads were told, basically, like throughout or maybe after the sequels. I mean, this comic series now, The Next Shadow, I kind of see like promotion for what's to come, to get Avatar back into the conscience of people, like, hey, that's a thing still, and there's more coming. So read this, so you might be interested in the first movie and even more in the sequels, because this is just like building a bridge between I don't know, the first movie and what's to come. So it makes absolutely perfect sense to me that they couldn't like reveal major secrets to us or something like that, but just to spark our interest, basically again. And in and of itself, I think they did a good job with that. So
yeah, it's another part of world building. It's
absolutely, yeah. It's just a teaser, so to want you want to have more, like you're, I don't know, interested again. You want to see more of what's to come.
Exactly. I don't know if I've talked about this theory on the podcast before, but I'm almost certain that this was actually like designed to be filler, like not to degrade it or anything. But I don't think they could tell any high stakes story with the Next Shadow, because the Next Shadow is literally occupying in the release schedule what tsu'tey's path was supposed to with the original release date. And they're like, oh no, we wanted a comic release like 2 years before, and then have the high ground come out the winter of the release year, and then the film at the end of the year. Like, and then they're like, oh no, everything's delayed. Well, we need to get back into that expected hype cycle that we had. And what's a low stakes story that we can tell in the world of Avatar?
Yeah, sure, that could be, but okay.
Still not happy, but you can live with it.
I can. Oh well, no. The two major things when I read it the first time was that, and I noticed is totally that is, what is that? Atom splitting, hair picking, whatever.
Nitpicking.
Nitpicking is this clan that Outvoke mentioned.
That angered me.
Yeah, Monkwan, or I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Monkwan. Monkwan. Yeah, I'm sure there was a short I missing somewhere. It's probably Monkwan. Kawan.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Monkwan.
That's one. That's one. And the other one is, and I'm not always doing this, but the scene where Naviteri arrives at the end. Have you counted her toes?
Oh no, I haven't. Give me a sec. 5.
I can spoiler you. It's 5.
No.
That is totally nitpicking, but I don't
just
know
one
why.
panel,
Just
though.
because. Yeah, it's this one panel, but it is so because it is the angle. It is the chosen angle, and I said to myself, "No, this is
Naviteri is mutating. It's canon. Her left foot now canonically contains. Oh wait, in the next page, it's back down to 4.
It was just a momentary mutation. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's an ability all Na'vi have.
Yeah,
probably.
a Dutch for running.
Oh, you mean it's like what is that term?
It's the speed toe.
It's a retractable toe.
Yeah,
it's a retractable toe. When the Na'vi are running, that the extra toe just pops out.
Oh, right.
Extra
it gives
traction.
them more traction.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Of course.
And then when they're done running, back in.
You heard it here first. Okay, so what I really thought was a very nice panel was when Jake is again in the midst of the whole clan and everyone's standing around him. Although some of those heads are way too big for this scene.
Absolutely.
I think you talked about this in the last episode as well, is that sometimes, I mean, I'm not an artist, but sometimes I can see that the proportions are off, or like I don't know, like some of the muscles or the six packs look very weird to me sometimes. But I understand.
It's something I noticed too, of course,
kind of what it is.
and which always grinds my gears a bit, I have to say, even though I'm not an artist myself who draws perfectly all the time. By all means, I hardly ever do that. But it's just something like that I don't know, jumps my attention. Basically because it's something I'm just such a visual human being. I'm everything that's visual just speaks to me immediately, and so it's just, I don't know. I was attentive of that, or like from the get-go. So yeah, the proportions of some heads, or the placement of the ears, the irises of the eyes. There's a couple of things that could have been done better, but by now I'm just like thinking, okay, it's like how many Na'vi have these artists actually drawn before they did this comic? So it's just a matter of practice in the end, and just like falling back to the little reference images we have from the first movie, basically, which are not anatomically correct. So it's not much to go from. And the most panels, you just have to rhyme or guess what it could look like and how it should like make sense visually. Right. So I think overall they did the best they can, and it works like for telling the story, which is a comic all about. Except for the fifth toe of Naviteri. Sure. I mean, come on. How could you let that slip?
I'm surprised you didn't notice that.
I didn't.
That was the first thing.
I didn't.
Wait a minute, who's running to whom here?
The process of making a comic is kind of mind-boggling, though. Like, I mean, in any given issue, there's like literally hundreds of drawings that need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's true. And I'm not sure how much time they have. And
exactly. They have to balance, time and just the volume of work that needs to be done and the number of people that they have available to them. Like, comic artists are typically like drawn by one person, inked by another, colored by another, and written by another, because like there's so much work to be done and so little time to do it, that if one person was in charge of everything, then like, it would take way longer or they would burn out immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I can only imagine, but it must have been a shit ton of work, especially in the short time frame they had, I assume. So it's like I said, overall, it's a job very well done. So
still wish the writers would have just asked somebody who speaks Na'vi about naming a clan. Like if they just came up with that clan name on their own, just ask. Like literally just ask. Like you could even sign on, like come to the Kelly Discord, make a new burner account and say, "Hey, is this a valid name for a clan? Nothing else." And then someone's like, "Oh no, you need like an extra U here or like an I here." And like, cool, thanks, gone forever. And then that's in it. Like, please, just literally just do that. Because like, I thought we were done with the era of Na'vi just being made up because they believe that nobody gives a shit. Or like the ASG era stuff where it's like, these are all promo materials for a movie that we don't even know if it's going to be even remotely successful. And there's a language in it that was made up and it's designed to sound kind of alien, and I guess this kind of sounds alien weird to me too, so sure, this is now a thing. Without any sort of serious consideration. Like, Avatar is now literally a multi-billion franchise. Take a moment and either, send Fromer an email, I'm sure you're in cahoots, or ask the community.
Yeah, I mean, if this comic is really considered to be canon, I'm sure that the name hopefully will be corrected in the future to please the nerds.
Is there something like in books that there's a second edition or so? Is that also possible in comics, or is that not very common? I have
sort of. Okay, so there's a collected edition. The one for Next Shadow is coming out, I think, in August. But it's basically like all the issues of the comic combined into one like paperback. It's called
I would have waited for that.
It's called the trade paperback or the TPB.
Yeah, I know you are not a fan, or you haven't watched it, but the Avatar, The Last Airbender, they did it's called a library edition with additional notes from the artists, and those are
yeah, something like that. Yeah, they did that for Tsu'tey's Path.
Without the I know.
Well, I think the Tsu'tey's Path collection was awesome because like it was literally everything. It was all the issues, full page art of all the different alternate covers. And then it also included the Brothers short comic from Free Comic Book Day, which
All right.
that's such an obscure piece of Avatar media.
Already forgot about that one. True. I mean, I have the paperback edition with all issues in it from tsu'tey's Path in German. So, and the original issues I have in English. So I'm definitely gonna buy
They did
the
a translation.
yeah. So I'm definitely gonna buy the paperback edition for the next Shadow as well. But I'm not so sure if they will be willing to put in the effort to correct that one little mistake.
I doubt it.
Yeah, me too.
Call to arms. Write emails. Write emails.
Correct it.
Gather the clans. Write emails.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that this is like an omaticaya situation where, like, pretty much canonically, it's spelled with a C, where that's just the way that it like that it's written, like human facing in universe or whatever, and like the Mangkuan might actually be like the Mangkuan. Mangkuan.
Even when you pronounce it, it's good. Mangkuan.
Mangkuan. No, but it might be like Mangkuan, and it just got and that might show up in some canon media moving forward, and it's actually Mangkuan, but it just got shortened to Mangkuan because stupid. But like, and I think those kind of things are fine. That kind of thing is fine as long as it's like owned and committed to.
Yeah, and it's easily fixable. Not like Beta Amo.
Yeah. I mean, it's not technically using any sounds that aren't illegal in Na'vi. Like, it's not using B's, it's not using, like, I don't know, Q's, but, like, it's using valid sounds. It's just the way that it is spelled, it doesn't make sense.
You know what really would have driven me off would be if that between the on and the k would be an apostrophe.
That in the middle.
Delicious.
That's actually what I thought when I saw that word. I was just happy that they didn't do that.
Monk. Oh. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is very much the
tangent,
Eana Mokri
no.
podcast where we spend, upwards of 12 minutes talking about a single word.
I'm sorry. I brought it up.
I'm actually a bit sorry because it's just so nitpicky. But isn't that the job of total nerds? I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly. And is that better than the 5-minute rant about a fifth toe on a Tyrion's foot?
Oh my god, I'm a nerd.
welcome to the club.
Just glances around, throws Barry and runs off.
Any other thoughts on the next Shadow?
Looking forward to the paper edition.
Yep.
All right, yeah, and the TPB, I'm pretty sure it's coming up in August, if I remember correctly. I don't have the exact date on me because I'm totally prepared.
TPB.
TPB, trade paperback.
Trade paperback. Okay, thanks.
I had to learn that term. I'm not a comics guy.
You're not that kind of nerd.
Excuse me, I'm just a conlang nerd. I'm not a comic book nerd.
Totally different world.
Yeah, completely different. All right, and with that out of the way, let's move on to a different flavor of nerding. Same form, actually. We got some language updates from Karipal on his blog Naviteri. If you don't already check in on naviteri.org, which according to a recent survey in the community, not a lot of people are up to date on, go check it out. It's literally word of God regarding anything Na'vi. But yeah, we periodically get new posts on the blog with new information about the Na'vi language, and that happened.
Again.
It keeps happening. We talk about these pretty regularly. Again, I'm assuming at least some of our audience is first-time listeners. So
It happens like almost every month now.
Yeah, we're blessed with a new post about once a month.
Yep. Praise be.
Yep. Usually very late night Saturday. You wake up Sunday and it's Word Christmas.
Yeah, Word Christmas.
It really is though.
I think it's at the end of the month. If that happens to be a Saturday, then yeah, good for you.
Yep.
So what did we have? Did we have Gian to blame?
Yeah, Kiantu. I think Kiantu is a really cool like window into the way that Na'vi think about things. So like a blameworthy person is not a term that you use in my native language of English.
You are the blameworthy one.
Yeah, but like having a term for that, I use this as my go-to example, but it's like Schadenfreude. It's like oh yeah, that's not really a term that we have, but like once you hear about it, it's like oh yeah, no, that's totally applicable. And yeah, like the closest thing in English would be like one to blame. Like the one to blame is such and such, but like that's such an awkward statement, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Kiantu. Moving on. We also got zine and a bunch of derivatives related to it. So zine is an adjective to be tangled. Then there's dezine, which is an entanglement or a mass of something twisted together. Then we have the verb derivative of the noun derivative, because Na'vi, of dezinsi, to tangle or tangle up something as a verb. And there's also gezine, untangled, dekazine, something that is in an untangled state. But also, this is colloquially used as a word for a solution, or something that is literally something that is untangled is a solution. And I think that's just really cool.
Yeah. Finally, a word for that. That's very good.
Yeah, I like the idiomatic use of that to untangle a problem, basically.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
And we also got tekezinsi, to untangle or solve, which is part of that idiomatic expression, literally to untangle or untwist a thread of problems. And then I think this is the thing that resulted in the most discussion, was tunu, an adjective for romantic, and a lot of clarifications about how this relates to the word that we already have, which is yane, which is beloved. And it sounds like tunu is more serious, I guess, than yane, where yane is more broadly speaking beloved, like, or cherished, or like a family member or a friend can be beloved, but your romantic interest can also be beloved, but is also tunu.
Yeah.
I wonder about the etymology. What is the term again? Etymology of tunu. Like, does it come from tsu'tey sunu?
That's. I heard that theory and I liked it a lot.
Okay.
It makes sense.
I mean, it's better than sunutu.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like if you have romantic feelings for someone, or if you just I don't know, if you fancy them or something, it's just like not as deep as love yet, naturally. So it's just something or someone you enjoy and you wish you had a relationship with or something, and so that route would make sense to me. So
yeah, it's like Yona is more of like a care, like an I care about this person. Well, Dunu is the romantic side. It's the romantic love, that kind of deeper emotional feeling.
Yeah, but then again, we have Yaune too, Kefir.
Yeah.
Which is also which also can be used for lover, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so this is where it got interesting though. Is so once you get to tunutu, which is basically described as like a crush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tunutu is a great word. But like it almost like the usage of it kind of flips around. Because where like tunu is like serious romance, a tunutu is like the budding is like a budding romance, where yantu becomes someone you have serious, mature, deep love for. Even though yaune is more broadly used for like friends and family, where tunu itself is used for serious deep love, but once it's tunutu, it's like it's more casual. It's still romantic in the direction of like a romantic relationship, but it's not like serious, deep, or committed.
Yeah,
which I found very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That was kind of an interesting distinction, and it shows some insights into how the language develops over time.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just wonder why these words, like, what was like the inspiration for developing or deciding upon those words now? Like, what was the insight? Like, so sometimes
what prompts KP to come up with these words in particular?
Yeah, like something must have happened either in his personal life or job or a question by a fan or something that made him go, yeah, okay, I want a word for romance now.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting.
I mean, there's definitely been examples before where it's like, oh yeah, he clearly came up with this word because he wanted to say this, or like, some of the 2016 to 2020 era KP posts in particular come to mind.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean. Yes, I remember. Yeah, that's true. And given the fact that the LEP is still on hiatus, or not really sure what happens to that, so
yeah,
I think he still has a little bit of a backlog for that, but I'm not sure how.
I was gonna say
how strongly he works on that.
Yeah, my understanding is that he's still got a hell of a backlog of LEP submissions that he's working through. So usually he says when it comes from the LEP, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm not that much involved in it anymore. But as far as I know, the LEP as of now is not really existing. So, not in its last form. So
yeah, it's
certainly
like pseudo exists.
We'll have to see how that develops. But I can tell you that romantic was not on the list of words that we at any given time sent to him, as far as I remember.
Yeah, most things with KP are handled via email. And speaking of, I have information from an email.
What?
What? Yeah, so a conversation came up. So a fan was trying to translate elements of Minecraft into Avatar. What am I, a casual? They were trying to translate it into leNa'vi to make an Avatar mod. One of the things that they ran into was trying to translate a word for sponge, and they came up with Hmonyu Baya, or literally a water thief. And a conversation arose where the U suffix in leNa'vi kind of takes a verb and makes it the person, or the person that does that thing. And a very close equivalent in English is like the ER suffix. Like you have wash and then like a washer. And like a washer can be somebody who washes dishes, washes clothes, or whatever. But we also extend that idea to any like machine or apparatus that can like perform that function. And sometimes we apply those kind of properties to other things. You could say like the example I used in the email was like, oh, like an arrow could be like a killer.
Yeah.
Even though it's not obviously a person doing that thing. So I basically asked, broadly speaking, how intrinsically linked to personness is this U suffix? Would the leNa'vi think of a rambunctious ikran as a stiwisiu, for example? Or non-living things? Like, so they say that hufwe tul, like the wind runs for when the wind is like blowing strongly. But do they ever say, would somebody say that hufwe is a tulyu?
Yeah, makes sense.
Is the wind a runner? Could an arrow be a spangyu? Do they ever personify inanimate objects in this way? And the response I got was, unlike the English ER, which according to my dictionary denotes as a person, animal, or thing that performs the specified action or activity, U in leNa'vi is strictly for persons. But he's like, but if you discover an exception to the rule, please let me know.
That's kind of how his emails tend to go. Is like, if you ask about something like that, he makes a general statement. And it's like, but if you see an exception, this is hard to keep track of all this.
Yeah.
And then he's went on to say, you know, he loves the idea of associating a sponge with stealing water. It's creative and sounds very much like how the Na'vi might refer to it. And he pitched a couple of compounds of fmong by or by fmong. And he's like, which do you prefer? And so I don't know if that's KP like, hey, you brought this up, why don't you decide this or whatever, which is like, to me as somebody who joined when the LEP was still like a thing, it felt a little awkward because like part of me doesn't like want to like bypass that. But yeah, I responded. I gave my reasonings for choosing one over the other. And so if we get a word for sponge in the near future, that will in and of itself serve as a window into how KP kind of like selects words.
Yeah. Sometimes it's...
Yeah, if there's a need.
Yeah, like that's kind of how I see it. The LEP is kind of more of like a general lexicon expansion, while like if there's a particular use, like you're trying to come up with a word for something, that's kind of a different case because the need arose more naturally, I guess.
Right.
Like I emailed asking how Na'vi would express pain, and now we have because that's something that I've always wanted to. I like having those interjections to throw in.
Yeah, interjections are always helpful and good. And we still need more of those, in my opinion.
Yeah, interjections are some of like the coolest like culture windows for Na'vi.
Yeah.
Not only that, they're the easiest to throw into everyday with life without people really noticing.
It's true. So in the case of sponge, was it is that used for like what we use now for dishwashing or for
an object that like is hyper absorbent and can store water.
Okay. So in my opinion, this is not really an earth concept because at least in native surroundings or environment, like plants or moss is used as sponges. So I can imagine that this is going to be a word, a Na'vi word that just means a sponge.
Yeah.
Something that absorbs and gives water.
Just call it lì'fya and be done with it.
Or liquid. lì'fya, of course. Yeah.
LUFA.
Yeah, but I mean that's also, as far as I know, that is made from a plant, right? Is it a gourd or something?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the best example. So I think it's not really restricted to an earth object. Not that people will come up with sponge or something like that.
Sponge, Bob, sweater pants.
Bob Sponge, sick. Okay, I'll stop.
Sran, Mike, down.
I performed that once.
It was glorious.
People still ask me about that.
It was awesome.
All right, and the next confirmation that we had was for bimt an, the question word for how much, which can also be used as an adjective. So if you were asking to how much water, it would be bimt anapai, which is not that surprising for me, but it is good that we have this confirmation because we already had polp ai, which is also in polp ai azizit. How many years? In the question, how old are you?
Right.
So it was consistent with how other question words are treated.
Right. So I found this one. I found that this particular one interesting. So if you were to ask me how would you say like how much heat or whatever, for this, I would have said imtan tisome, where I would lean for like the genitive case. What amount, I guess, of heat. But making imtan the component that is like an adjective, I guess that's a very similar relationship, and this sort of harkens back to one of my minor misgivings with leNa'vi is how the genitive case can behave so adjective-like at times. And this particular, like, I guess if it's an exception, question mark, is like sort of further pushing like the fluidity of, or like how adjective the genitive like relationship is. I just said words. Did any of them make sense?
Some of them.
If we were to turn around, would you be more satisfied with tisom pimtane? That would be mind-boggling.
That's the thing is, no, that doesn't.
Heat
make
of how
sense
much?
To me. That's the heat of how much. Like
sounds like a D&D
makes no
thing.
sense.
Sounds like some kind of like
What?
fantasy name for some kind of weapon.
Yeah.
But could you imagine a situation where, because the a and the r is so phonologically close together, that maybe the r and the a, the adjective r and the genitive a, developed one from the other?
Don't get conspiracy theory palm going. I will take this and run with it.
Welcome to this 2-hour episode of.
It could be, but
Yeah.
it's the question, how would that be? How can that fit in any grammar description? But it's I think it's feasible. It could have developed from one to the other at some point. Yeah.
As a
Same as
go ahead.
the shortened R.
Yeah. As a kind of aside, I'd just like to mention that I'm happy with how many interchangeable structures we're starting to get now. So like we have that pimtana tisom, but now we also have samweope, which is also how hot, but it's more like what's the temperature. Well,
Right.
Pimtana tisom is literally how much hot. Like how much heat is it? How hot is it? And
Yeah. That I like that granularity, because like when you have those dual word measurements, like hint on, somewhere, where it's like one extreme or the other extreme, it's almost like you totally do not know which it is. Like it could be extremely hot, it could be extremely cold. But like when you were saying, imtanatisom is literally like, you know it's hot. How hot is it? And I like that granularity.
yeah, I like to draw parallels with English structures, and it's the same thing in English. Like if it's summertime, I'll ask how hot it is. I won't ask what temperature is it. In the spring, I'll be more like, what's the temperature outside?
Yeah, but similarly, if somebody's said like oh, it's surprisingly cold out, is it? And then you might say, what temperature is it?
Yeah,
Because now the possibility of coldness is included.
yeah, and it's like
Possibility of coldness.
yes, that's my new band. Yeah. My new band, our EP is dropping in a couple of weeks.
Kosman. Neoyivune. I have a new conspiracy theory, like etymology conspiracy.
Okay.
Every episode.
Play the theme. Can we play cue the theme, please?
All right, so hear me out. All right, so we have lu, which is to, like, it can be used to equate things. And then we have slu, where one thing can become another thing. But similarly to lu, both nouns tend to not be cased, or if in the case of slu, if it really does need to be clarified, it uses ne. Lu and slu are related, and the S in slu comes from si, like in the si verbs. So it's like Lucy, or like we've seen with sei irayo, where si can sometimes come before. Silu became slu. Silu, slu, slu.
Yeah, I'm not
Anyway.
buying that.
But I'm just saying,
No,
like,
me neither.
engaging with equality or becoming something else is becoming. Engage. Yeah.
But
I
sorry
actually
to burst your
Think
bubble.
about it.
I actually can kind of buy that one. I'm not gonna lie. To like,
Why was a verb verbifying affix added to an existing verb? Who knows? They did it with
that's
they
my
did it
point.
with
That's my
tahanusi.
point.
They did it with tahanusi, which is a
Yeah, but that's no. That's still a noun. Tahaunu is a noun.
okay, fine.
What-
See,
What about
it would be
this?
Haunu
Tilusi.
then.
Tilusi.
Lucy. It's like da Lucy in the house.
Lucy, I'm home.
Sitalu. Slu.
Maybe Selatemlu. Slatemlu? Slu? I don't know.
Slatum.
Slut.
There you go. Now you're thinking like me.
It's contagious.
Now you're thinking with portals.
But
Welcome.
I can. Well, my theory was at one point that the S actually comes from the infix of isya and asya, so the future infix. It's I don't know. I never thought that.
So like
through,
last
but,
you, and then
you know,
people were like, and then they were like,
It's-
"This is annoying."
intending to become. You know, intending to be. It's become. Yeah. I'm not as good at conspiracy theorist you as Pamarik.
No one is.
I appreciate it.
Tekesin see you. Tekesin see you, Pamarik.
So,
I'm untangling perfectly parallel threads.
Yes.
That's my job. What are you talking about? I was just thinking. I was like, I was trying to figure out. I was like, okay, so what would the word be for conspire? Like a conspiracy.
Well, it's Pamarik.
Pamarik see.
Yeah.
Finally, I have my own C verb.
Achievement unlocked.
Mine's jump into scientific conversations when nobody asked. That's a always see. I'm convinced that something like conspire would be a play on the word uta.
I guess if you're like meeting in like a secret cabal somewhere.
Well, 'cause,
like
like-
if you're meeting to conspire.
Conspire that or plan, because a conspiracy and to conspire is
Yeah.
to plan against something.
Yeah, I'd be like Howl Niwan or something like that.
Tend to agree.
Or something with Kaung. Like Kaung Sar is to exploit. So something like.
I feel like that would depend on your
Kaung or
motives, though.
something. What about this Mang Quan?
Mang Kaung Sad.
Go on. Back on track. What do you think about this rule that information that came up with Tuno, that the combination U-O-E becomes we?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sunuwed.
Werunetengsle.
Sunu
It's
we.
gonna be complicated to remember that in all cases, so it just has to become natural to people.
Yeah, but I think it is totally natural.
Yeah, it
when
kind of
you
just happens automatically.
Does it?
Accidentally.
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
think so too. FOA. I think I
FOA.
already at some points I did that.
I was gonna say-
FOA is very difficult to pronounce. FOA.
I think
It's so cumbersome.
I tended to pronounce it as Fuoa, but I could see that Fue feels better.
But that sounds like you put in an apostrophe
Yeah, exactly.
on oe, right? So
Yeah,
that-
it sounds
which
like
is-
there's a
it's not
diphthong
right.
after the oo.
Yeah.
Efu'e.
Yeah. Yeah, if I did F-U-O-E, see, it feels like there's a stop there.
Yeah, Efu'oe. Yeah.
But F-U-E is...
And there was another example. It is the question, when does it occur? And he gave another example with ngaruoe neus rumsivi, would be ngaruwe neus rumsivi. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's natural. It would come natural over time. The faster you speak,
Yeah.
those elisions appear
Yeah.
naturally.
I mean, when you go from oo to e, the w is kind of it's on the way, so to speak.
Yeah,
I wonder.
on the way.
I just want to know: is it just with an e? Like I don't know, oare, for example, would that happen there as well? But it's an a.
What do you mean?
Like oare?
Ngaruware. Ngaruware. That's
Yeah.
actually that does track. Actually, I think
Yeah.
that it really does come down to just the u into an o, even though uo is in of itself its own word. Just
Well-
that space between words becomes, I
Yeah.
don't know, makes sense to me.
It's the Crash Bandicoot sound.
What? Oh, that game was so awesome.
Okay,
I love that game.
and the final confirmation was the what can be left out in colloquial speech.
Yeah, so
I love this.
regarding the boom one in particular was like fascinating to me because I always just assumed that the genitive behaved like an adjective. I didn't know that there was like an implied boom that was just being dropped, like "fitsinge luangea."
Yeah, but it does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, "fitsinge
Yeah.
luangea" makes more sense.
Yeah.
But I think this is a perfect case of back engineering.
Yes. The
As far as
third
I
way
know.
that words can be added to Na'vi
Yeah.
is Paul
Or
Frommer
omit
trying
it.
to make Avatar mistakes canon.
Is wait, hold up.
I mean,
Sivako. Sivako as one word.
Yeah.
I love that.
Sivako.
I love that one. And I'm not gonna lie. Part of the reason that I like it is because it makes so many people mad. Whenever I bring it up, I'm like, because I think I was involved in emailing and asking about that, and he was just like, yeah, it makes sense that it would be that you could do both or just as one word because it's it's an idiomatic thing, and there are still quite a few people in the community who do not like that.
Sivako ko, as we all know, is a verb adposition.
Yes.
That's a tip point again.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Put on your head.
Ma is an adposition in ancient Na'vi. I'm convinced of this.
You know what? I'm buying it. I'm fully in. Hand me my tinfoil hat, please.
Awe ma. Irayo.
I need my tinfoil hat.
Netirima. That just sounds wrong. No.
It sounds like Japanese. Netirima.
It really does.
It's got like that. Netirima desu.
Natirimasu ka?
Am I now racist? Is that what just happened? I don't know. I'm gonna assume no.
So how re learnna'vi Yolen Stoke.
Haure lefna sunuwaru. Mipa.
You're wearing it mighty fine.
Mipa lì'fya srak.
I need. Ooh, that's something that I should. So, this is something that I noticed myself doing, and I noticed that practically everybody does this when they first start. Is they pronounce it srane versus srane,
Yeah. A.
and I.
That's the English brain speaking.
Hey.
But that's what I'm wondering though. I don't know. It just seems incredibly common. It seems
English brain.
It seems.
I'm telling you, it's English brains. English does not have words that end in "eh."
I agree 100%. But I'm like, it's common in. It's still common in people who've been speaking for a while and are very familiar with it still.
Because English brain runs hard and deep.
Yes, that's true.
Can you pronounce both again? I didn't get that.
Srane.
Srane.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I've heard people. I've heard a lot of people pronounce it Srane.
Oh, okay.
Which
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well,
At least it's not K-hey. That one's
Oh.
that one always hurts.
Hey.
Hey, you mean face something?
Yeah.
Hey.
I mean, I don't know. I can't tell if it stems from the English brain TM trademark or not. But
It definitely.
But when would that ever happen?
It definitely does because, like Pomeric was saying, practically, unless it's a silent E at the end, practically every English word that ends in an E is pronounced A at the end.
okay.
Where?
So I can off the top the examples.
Where, please tell me.
The examples that come off the
Tell
top of my
me.
head are another rule of E at the end of the word where it basically you append it to the previous vowel.
Yeah.
An example would be like crane is like crane. But like I'm trying to remember there are examples. I can't think of them right now.
It's a long
But
vowel.
wouldn't that mean that it's srene?
Srain.
No,
Srain.
I've seen srain plenty of times.
The Srain train.
Yes, I have that.
Okay. So let's just teach people that it's not srane.
Oh, I go out of my
Unless
way.
you're talking
I go out of
about
my way every
yane.
pronunciation lesson to do that.
Yeah,
Why do I believe that?
So yeah, srane.
All aboard the Shrine train.
You want to hurt an experienced Na'vi speaker? Hey.
Ow.
What?
Pain.
Hey.
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 I can't compute this one.
Hail Tay.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Milte. Milte away, Roo.
Yeah, but I think that just comes from being inexperienced with pronouncing words that end like in an E. Like it's just you just don't know what to do with it, so you just like go away.
For those who are not on the Kelutral Discord, we have April Fool's jokes every year, and back before Kelutral, a few years ago, we had what we refer to as Navies, which was leNa'vi intentionally spoken incorrectly, and that was fun.
As long as people take on this pronunciation, I'm against it. Period. I'm against it.
You have many allies.
Yeah, but I can understand where that comes from. It is, as Eana said, it's inexperience, and as long as people don't have good quality, in inverted commas, good quality examples where they can draw from and say, okay, this is how it's pronounced, then what do we expect? We cannot expect people to come in and have a lesson in pronunciation and get it right from the very first
Absolutely.
lesson on.
I mean,
Absolutely.
here's a perfect example in my own case. Don't ask me how I did this because I cannot recreate it, but I somehow managed to take the ejective T and make it injective. I sucked in air instead of blowing out air.
How?
Oh, that's fun.
How did that sound?
It was like it doesn't even come up on the mic. It was like
It'll come up in the recording.
Yeah.
Probably. No, wait. No. There's a difference between it not coming up in the Discord and not coming up in the recording.
yeah, it'll come up in the recording. I see the little bump, but
Okay.
I know you can do it with the K. I think in Prometheus, the language that they created for the architects, there was an inverted K sound, and I think one of the words was eywa'eveng. So it's
Whoa.
really, you can do that, but with a T, I don't know what it's going.
It was weird because it was close enough that like when I was asking people, like, I was like, "Is this sounding right?" People are like, "Yeah, it sounds right," but it was
not right.
totally not right.
Speak Na'vi with breathing in.
Yeah. I still had no clue how I did that.
Oh no, okay, oh, the demon. I released the demon.
If you play the podcast in reverse.
Next thing you know, we have Delu vomit all over.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the closest sound to that I can think of is the sound.
Yeah.
Which is a completely different sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically a click. Like, I don't know how it...
Right. Well, I mean, all ejectors are a form of a click.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also, I think in Quechua, there's also a CH, so a ch ejective. So it's or something like that. So
I love that sound. I love that sound.
More.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, there are a lot of more.
I worked it into one of my conlang projects.
Again, why am I not surprised?
That would be project number
2.5.
Only 2.5.
Are we talking conlang projects or all projects in general? Because
conlang projects. Definitely conlang projects.
Okay.
Because if it's projects in general, I definitely know that is a much larger number.
Yeah, it's number 2.5 of 47,000.
Yeah. Say, even if we're talking just like things tangentially related to leNa'vi, I know of at least like 20.
Yeah. I the other day somebody asked about like if there's a site or whatever that listed out all the leNa'vi numbers, just like a list of number words, and we have a chart that goes up to Zom, but like we didn't have much beyond that. And I found a old Google spreadsheet that I was working on where I was literally just listing out numbers, and that was like it was like a year old, at least several years old, because this was way before Kelutral.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait a second, my knowledge of Google Sheets has greatly expanded since then. I can mostly automate this now. And so I automated it up to Vozam. And yeah, now I have that project somewhat completed. Obviously could kind of go on more or less forever.
I have a few open questions with emails sent to KP on numbers that still I think he's still working on or just thinking about.
Yeah. Question for me is, Mapamadik, can you sleep easier now?
Yes. Asterisk.
Asterisk.
On the nights where I would remember that I had that project and I haven't finished it, now I no longer have nights where I remember that project exists and I haven't finished it.
Salam. Maybe that's my aversion to numbers, but every time a question comes up about numbers in Na'vi, I'm off.
Yep, same.
Oh yeah.
Let other people handle this.
Mopsoops, you are not alone. So, yeah, I did the learner survey a couple like about a month ago, it seems. Probably it was weeks ago. I don't know what time is. The passage of time kind of just happens at me. But yeah, I did a learner survey, and it was like I added at the end, it's like, okay, these areas of the Na'vi language, like what's your comfort level with them? Numbers are an area that a lot of people are not comfortable with, even the people who have like reported that they've been studying the language for years. And also the census paradigm. And I know personally I'm not comfortable with that. Literally every time I've ever had to like explain a like sensory statement, I have that specific Naviteri page bookmarked because I have not bothered to actually like learn it and like practice it. You know, I should do that today after we finish recording.
I love that topic though. Unlike numbers, I dread numbers. I just hate them. I always did. But the sense paradigm, I really enjoy.
A topic for,
I mean, like,
that could be a topic for another episode. Wink, wink.
Yeah. So I know
we could.
I made a long time ago. I made a worksheet-esque thing that was mostly focused on just how to do math octally, and like translating decimal numbers into octal and how to mess with that.
Doing
It's
that.
tricky.
Doing that, I can because Merve taught me. Many people tried before her, but it was just only when she managed to explain it to me that it clicked in my head. And I was actually able to calculate numbers from decimal to octal and back again. And I was only having fun with it because I saw it as some sort of puzzle, like solving Sudoku or something.
That's what I do. So you're not alone.
Yeah, my rule of thumb with numbers is
our-
I just generalize. Like, I just hard generalize. Round up to the nearest zom.
Yeah, me too. Because I think, isn't it also a very our very human brain that needs to put everything in numbers, and I don't get it.
I lament this constantly. I would say pretty much like 1 in 3 new Na'vi learners who like actually go out of their way to like actually study the language. One of the first things they tend to ask about is numbers. And
I was one of them.
Yeah.
Of course.
But it's understandable. With you, it's understandable.
Yeah. And there was like, I figured numbers are a simple topic. And it's like, no, numbers are actually one of the most complicated topics for learning Na'vi that has the least application. Like, unless you are talking in a very specific, precise way, or you're like trying to organize things at very specific times of date, which is not something that Na'vi as a language even excels at because the Na'vi themselves don't have to do.
Yeah. There is a found it a long time ago. I need to find it again. There is like a chart that basically translates the hours into it Na'vifies the hours, but not as numbers.
Right.
That's a great chart for trying to organize things by time of day, because you can usually just be like around this hour.
Yeah, but regarding numbers, I just to new people in the German sector, I just suggest to just learn the numbers from 1 to 8 or maybe 1 to 16, because that's basically all the numbers you'll ever need in daily usage of the language. And unless you're very interested in mathematics, it's something that can be neglected until you have nothing else to learn about regarding Na'vi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm the
But
guy
you're
who keeps
a
bringing up
math nerd.
numbers. Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, that's the thing though with Na'vi is like, or really learning any language, learning the things that are useful to you specifically for the way that you want to communicate are the most important. I might not personally speak in terms of specific numbers a whole lot, but like if that's your jam, go for it. Like I'm not gonna speak for like everybody here.
Yeah.
No,
you just have to find the person who can explain it then to you in an understandable way.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah, same.
when I learned Italian, that was one of my favorite things. Was learning the number system and how it works, because it was just interesting to me. But like, I can count on one hand the number of times I ever had to use that in the class. It was, but yeah, like you said, it's just because it's interesting to me, and it's.
Yeah, but that's what you learn best, right? The things that are interesting to you,
exactly.
no matter if if you're going to use them or not, it's neglectable in comparison. I think.
I filled my brain with useless etymology information, and now I come up with dumb conspiracies.
Are they conspiracies if they're true?
They're not. That's the cool thing about conspiracies. It's like being right in reverse.
At some point, you have to explain that logic to me.
Usually being right in reverse is called being wrong. But...
You would think that, but once my conspiracies theories get confirmed, and I get and Paul starts answering my emails again.
Okay, you will hear it here first.
One of these days, I'm gonna work up the courage to ask KP if Ma was an adposition.
You know what? Screw it. I got no.
Just go for it and have peace of mind.
Yeah. How did we get here? Well,
I don't know. Does this count as our like? Does this count as like our Na'vi conversation?
I'm gonna count it because that's what it was.
We've been recording for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think we'll skip the Na'vi practice lesson.
Oh, this was Na'vi conversation. It was conversation about Na'vi.
Yeah,
That's
there you go.
true.
Yeah,
That's true.
For the people that aren't interested in the Na'vi language and only follow us for Avatar stuff for whatever reason, this
First of
was
all,
just as useful.
First of all, how the hell did you find the podcast? Second, because as far
we are the Na'vi and Avatar podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but as
Na'vi
far as I
first.
know, like the only places that we advertise are like places where the Na'vi language is spoken.
I guess. I mean, we do spend the majority of episodes talking usually about something just new in the world of Avatar in
True.
English. So
True, but that's because we wouldn't be able. It would be very hard to do that entirely in Na'vi.
Challenge accepted.
the reason we do it in English is because we haven't had one of our German members host an episode yet.
Wink, wink.
If you want a German episode of Eana Mokri, please say so in the comments, and we will honor that request immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, I don't have to. That would be an episode that I wouldn't have to host.
Hold on, I need to get the Pixel Buds. Are those the ones that do the real-time translation that actually is pretty bad, but might work well enough?
I'll take your word
give you
for that.
a crash course on the topic.
Perhaps. No, well, okay, my plumes. We can schedule that after I go out of my way to learn the census paradigm today after we finish wrapping up this recording.
Okay.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah,
census, then German.
Yeah, I suggest that we will really do an episode about the census
Yes,
paradigm,
please.
because I love it.
I love Gan. It's still one of my favorite words, and it's so underused.
That'd be
It's a
fun.
really cool thing. Like, zero disagreement. I just haven't, like, committed it to memory.
Really?
I know I could explain the structure, but like the specific like wording or whatever, I would always reference the Naviteri article.
Real question,
Okay.
actually, that brought to mind an interesting idea. What's the thought of possibly doing things like that, where it's like a kind of podcast lesson that's like tangent to the regular podcast?
Like a themed episode.
Yeah,
Where we have a conversation where like I guess the host in that case would sort of guide a lesson, and then
like
the other host would like chime in with examples, or
that would be the whole podcast, rather than like right now we have with the podcast we have multiple topics throughout each episode, but with something like a lesson podcast, it would just be that as the topic. It might end up being a little bit shorter, but it would release might is the operative word here.
Sounds like fun.
But-
a short episode of this podcast.
Short episodes are range in the hour.
If you would like to see a lesson
I'm all
episode of Eana Mokri, let us know in the comments.
I'm all for it. I
300
think
comments.
I suggested something similar a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but you as listeners would like to hear that, then and have suggestions, then please leave them.
I think
we're out of comics to talk about.
Yeah.
What else are we gonna do for the next year and a half?
I think we've more than shown that we can talk at length about very specific topics.
Oh yeah.
So
If it's one thing we're good at, it's just talking for a real long time.
about very specific things.
Yeah. All right, with that, I'm gonna put a cap on this episode here.
Thanks.
Thank
Put a
you for
fork in
joining
it,
us
call
for
it done.
this episode of the Eana Mokri podcast. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on YouTube, or join the Kelutral Discord and share your thoughts. Join the community of other people who care this much about this thing. And with that, hi Levi.
There are dozens of us. Dozens.
Hi, Levi.
Bye, Levi.
Hi, Alawai.
You know, I never know where these episodes are gonna go when we start recording, but I always know I'm gonna have a good time.
Yep.
Yeah, if anyone else enjoys this as a side effect, great.
It's
Yeah, I can say male te.